Hail, and welcome to another episode of Heathen Hearth, the show where we cook recipes inspired by the ethnographic and historic imagination. This week, we're going to be making Europe's favorite fermented vegetable. That's right, it's sauerkraut time. This week's recipe takes us to the migration era Northern Europe. From the Bronze Age past the Viking Age, the Baltic Sea was extensively traveled by populations centered in what is now middle and southern Sweden, Denmark, and the western islands of the Baltic, such as Gotland. These peoples traveled and traded widely, forming alliances with both Slavic and Finnic peoples. There were intermarriages and cultural exchanges, including an influence on the religious practices of the Old Norse people. On what is now the coast of Poland lived the Wends, an independent Slavic people who had much contact with the Norse people. Notable Norse settlements amongst the Wends included the band of mercenaries known as the Jomsvikings. Some scholars believe the technology of lacto-fermenting cabbage may have come to Western and Northern Europe by way of the more easterly peoples, such as the Slavs. So, tough warriors such as the Jomsvikings might have enjoyed the invigorating crunch of sauerkraut during times of the year when vegetables were scarce. In the Germanic languages, variants on the word kål, kaul, kale are the terms usually used for vegetables of the cabbage group. Cabbages were considered the standard for leafy vegetables, so much so, in many areas a vegetable garden was actually called a kale yard or something similar, even if a variety of vegetables were grown there. Older varieties of cabbage may have been more leafy and less dense than the ones we have today. However, writings and scholarship describing the exact cultivar of cabbage used at different times and places is relatively scarce. I haven't really found much on it. If you find something though, write it in the comments below. I usually use a medium density cabbage, the Savoy cabbage, to make my kraut. However, it was not in season when I filmed this episode, so I split the difference and used a mixture of white cabbage and kale. Cabbage is often preserved with herbal flavorings added. The most common ones in the north of Europe are juniper and caraway. We use both of them in this recipe. Juniper berries are harvested wild from the juniper bush, which is a woody evergreen shrub. The berries have a piney aroma that's both fruity, earthy, and bracingly astringent. Both of these herbs add wonderful aromatic flavors to the dish. They also may add their own particular types of wild yeasts and bacteria. Some people swear by the fact that adding these types of seasonings through both the biota that they add and the chemicals in the herbs creates a situation where the fermentation of the sauerkraut happens more regularly, resulting in a more crunchy and long-lasting product. The second herb being added to the cabbage for the fermentation is caraway. Caraway is one of the herbs that has been cultivated the longest in Northern Europe. It is similar in appearance to other members of the carrot family, however only the seeds are commonly consumed. The flavor of caraway has a pungent, herbal black licorice flavor. I've been talking quite a bit about lacto-fermentation. That is because sauerkraut gets its sour flavor through a complex process of fermentation. This is where lactobacillus, a probiotic family of bacteria, breaks down elements of the vegetable matter to produce lactic acid and other compounds. This changes the flavor of the cabbage and also preserves it. The environment lactobacillus likes is a watery, salty, dark place with little air. Sauerkraut is actually a naturally pickled product. Thus, in order to make it, you need salt. Use salt that has not been iodized. I like gray sea salt because it's still produced today in a manner that was used in some places during the Dark Ages. And, of course, the additional minerals in it result in it tasting better. That's where the color comes from. The proportions I'm using for this recipe are ones that fit in my crock. I used 1 liter of white cabbage that was very well packed. As you can see, and you've seen before, I shredded it finely. I did the same thing with the next ingredient, which was kale, and I used 1 liter of kale as well. That was packed very, very well. So make sure that you use it packed. I also, for this amount of vegetable matter, I used 4.5 teaspoons of gray salt. I'm going to talk a little bit more about the proportion of salt to liquid and vegetables because that's very important. Um, I also have here 4 teaspoons of caraway seeds. A lot of people would use a bit less caraway seeds, but I really like the flavor. Also, too, after it's fermented, the flavor isn't nearly as strong as it is when it's fresh. So you see I'm cleaning around the edge of the lid of this fermentation crock. It's actually a special kind of crock. This one was made by my mother, but you can buy them online. I put a link down in the description. And as you can see here, what happens is that you have the fermenting material inside, and then there's a weight that's put on top. Then when you put the lid on, you see that lip there. That allows water to be poured in there, and what it does is it creates an airlock. It's not a modern, more sophisticated one like you might use in brewing, but a really ancient sort of style of and way of doing it. It produces really good sauerkraut. So one of the things you saw there is it's a tamper, and you have to make sure that as you're putting the ingredients in and layering them in, that you push it down really, really hard. Besides the caraway, I also used the same amount of juniper berries, and both of those, as you saw already, were slightly crushed in order to release some of their flavors. Both the juniper berry and the caraway seeds are often used medicinally, but one of the things people don't think about is actually the cabbage itself is medicinal, and they're particularly medicinal in diets where during the wintertime there would be no fresh vegetables. Sailors in particular use sauerkraut. Captain Cook was famous for using sauerkraut on his voyages to prevent scurvy. Before the Royal Navy really got into the use of lemons and limes, before they had established their colonies, sauerkraut was the way that the sailors got vitamin C. And in fact, they would stop at different ports and they'd make their own sauerkraut along the way as Captain Cook journeyed around the world. Here I'm using the other end of the tamper to tamp down the edges underneath the lip. You can use both ends of the tamper. If you don't have one of these, just improvise some kitchen implement, or just use your hands to push down really hard. That works as well. What you want to be able to do though is make sure that you fill it up as close to the top as you can get it. You need to leave room though, however, for the weight. So it can't go all the way to the top, but with this kind of fermentation crock, you want to at least fill it until underneath the elbows or the lip there, because it's hard to get the weight into the corners underneath. You notice that I haven't been adding any bacteria to this, or yeast. So if you're familiar with modern baking, you'll add, brewer's yeast or something like that, or if you're making beer, that type of fermentation, you add a yeast as well. Here we don't add anything, and the reason for that is that the types of bacteria that we want is already present on the vegetables and the spices. So all you need to do is basically rinse those things to make sure there's no dirt on them, and then they already have the bacteria that you need. It's what we call a wild fermentation or a spontaneous fermentation. The thing that we are doing is creating an environment where those bacteria can thrive. Now, if you feel nervous about that kind of thing, I really recommend reading Wild Fermentation. It's a fabulous book. It'll really get you started quickly. And if you're interested in getting into the science and extreme detail and sort of the nerdiness of fermentation, I recommend the book The Art of Fermentation. It is absolutely fabulous. Final step is just sealing up the crock once everything's in there. I use a heavy plastic bag filled with cleaned river stones. I find this is just the easiest way to do it. Some people use marbles. That way you can fit the bag into an uneven shape and you can push it into the crannies and corners. You can buy weights or get a weight, but this is a handmade piece of porcelain art here. That's my crock, so it's difficult to fit a weight into that. Just the next stage is just pouring a little bit of water to seal it over, which I'm doing right here. And you want to check on that every few days in order to make sure that the water's topped up. And if you get a little bit of mold buildup or anything, what you can do is just add extra salt to that water, and you won't have that problem. Now you just have to leave your sauerkraut out at room temperature. During the summertime, obviously, it'll go faster, it'll ferment faster, and during the wintertime, slower. So if you want to speed up or slow down your fermentation, just make sure that you put it in a cooler or warmer spot. The next day, I checked the sauerkraut. And you need to do this to make sure to see if enough liquid is coming out of the vegetables. Sometimes with sauerkraut, all you need to do is just add salt to the cabbage, and liquid comes out of it so that there's enough that it covers the cabbage. However, in this case, it didn't. I guess the cabbage was a little bit drier, and because of the kale, there was there wasn't enough. And also, I just gave it a little taste to see how salty it was. And it didn't taste all that salty. So I like something that has a little bit more salt, because that means the lacto-fermentation can go longer and the final product tastes more sour. So what I did was I took a little bit of extra salt and water and added it to the cabbage and kale so that there was enough liquid that it was covering everything. And I figured out that with the amount I added, it was around a 3% solution for the weight of the vegetables or the weight of the water to salt. And that's about what I like. You generally go between 2% and 5% on the salt solution. But if you're interested in knowing how and why to do that, I suggest reading The Art of Fermentation. Every 3 or 4 days, I would open up the container and taste it to see what it was like, to see if the flavor had gotten to where I liked it. And I tamp it down like this and reseal it once again, the same way, making sure that there was enough water in the rim. All right, so now it's time to check out this sauerkraut. It's been 13 days since I made it. I have the bag there that weights everything down. That might be a little bit wet, so I'm going to take that bag and put it on this here. Ooh, it's really stinky. Let's see how it tastes. Hopefully it's not too bad. The smell isn't that good though, so this might not be an experiment that goes to film. Let's see. But sometimes the smell of the sauerkraut is very different. It looks pretty good. It's nice and crunchy still. It's yellowed a bit. It might just be the bag that smells. All right, so I'm going to taste it in just a minute. All right, so I'll put that back on. The water's still around the outside edge. Okay, so it's been 13 days for the sauerkraut, and when I opened it, it smelled very funky, sort of a little bit of baby poop sort of smell, also a bit ripe and sour. So here it is, and but however, the aroma now from this smells really, really good. So let me try it out here. Oh my God, that is so good. None of that smell, it just has to waft off of it, I guess. It's still really crunchy. It's very tangy. It has a little bit of the hint of spiciness the cabbage had when I first cut it, which tasted a little bit horseradishy and a little bit like mustard. I can't really taste the juniper very much. But it is very crunchy, so it's probably done its work. The caraway, I get a few notes of caraway from it. Maybe more if I ate the seeds directly. But wow, this is amazing sauerkraut. It is delicious. I'm going to put it in the fridge so that it stops fermenting and only ferments very, very slowly so that I have this taste for quite a while. I can't wait to try this in some other dishes too. Oh, it's so good. Wow. Wow. Really good. Hey, welcome back to Heathen Hearth, Baz.
Hello. It's good to be back.
People must be familiar with you by now. We're trying a new recipe this week, and I already did my reaction, so we're going to try your reaction to this. You were at the last Hail and Horn gathering. Do you remember trying the sauerkraut?
No, I think I was too busy and too nice in a corner with a bottle of mead.
Oh, okay. Well, this is going to be really, really exciting for you then. So, see there in front of you that black crock?
Yes.
All right. Remove the lid and smell it and tell me what you see and smell. Just give me an observation.
Okay. Oh, there's water. Or is that brine? It smells like seaweed? Is that cabbage? It smells vinegary.
So what we'll do is, okay, so put the lid back on there.
It smells good.
Oh, really? Okay,
Yeah.
Great. Okay. I'll tell you what's all in it after you do the taste test. So I've got a little bowl for you already prepped. So try that out. Tell me what you think.
It smells kind of like kimchi. I feel like I should be eating this with chopsticks. It's really vinegary. Wow. I like how crunchy it is. I wasn't really expecting that. I was expecting it to be kind of like a light coleslaw almost, but it's just from the way it looked. But it's not. It's like yeah. It's more like it's a lot like kimchi.
Yeah.
Yeah, like a crunchy kimchi.
Yeah, it's prepared in the same way, just as a crunchier cabbage. Now that sourness you taste, I like having mine really sour, so I let it ferment for quite a long period of time. That's actually lactic acid, not acetic acid. So it's a different kind of bite, although it does have that kind of flavor.
So what happened? The cabbage worked out too hard?
I don't know. Maybe it got deezed, just like you. You take it to the gym?
Yeah, the cabbage came to the gym and got a little anaerobic.
All right, let's get anaerobic. The 20-minute workout is coming to a YouTube channel near you very soon. All right, thanks a lot, Baz.
Hey, my pleasure.
Bye.
It's delicious.
Thank you very much for being with me, and see you on another episode of Heathen Hearth. I hope you liked that video. Please give it a thumbs up down below, and I'd love to hear your comments as well. Also too, remember to subscribe to my channel and hit the bell so you get notifications. You might like this video as well, so check it out. There's also playlists, so you can check those out as well. Until next time, keep cooking.